All right, everybody. Good evening to you. So glad that you can join us here on this Friday night. It is March 17th here, right at 8 o'clock on the dot. Hope you are all ready for a wonderful weekend, getting rid of all that rain. I have your top 5 stories for tonight, covering things from here in the Atlanta metro area. But we are going to start with a pretty big international story I want to get to first here. And if you've been following along with the news, one of the biggest issues right now on an international level
the International
are some of the
Criminal
problems
Court
we're
has
seeing
issued a
over
warrant
in
for the
Russia
arrest of
and
Russian
Ukraine.
President
Well,
Vladimir
new today,
Putin. The
we're hearing a
Hague-based court
development
says
from the
Putin
International
is
Criminal
allegedly
Court. They have
responsible for the
issued
war crime of
an
unlawful
arrest warrant
deportation of children
for
from
Vladimir
occupied
Putin.
areas of Ukraine
This
to
arrest
the Russian
warrant issued
Federation.
earlier
The
today
ICC
for Russian
judges
President
also
Vladimir
issued a
Putin
warrant
for war
against
crimes,
Russia's
accusing
Commissioner for
Putin
Children's
of
Rights,
personal
accusing her of
responsibility
similar
for the
crimes.
abductions of children from Ukraine. Obviously, this is not good. We've been following this conflict over in Ukraine for some time now. This is the first time, though, that the global court has issued a warrant against a leader of one of the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council. So this is a pretty big deal here. The court says in a statement, Putin is allegedly responsible for the war crime of unlawful deportation of children and that of unlawful transfer of children from occupied areas of Ukraine to the Russian Federation. So really, this warrant makes Putin almost a pariah to many countries out here.
Was unsafe.
We heard from a former international prosecutor who said that Vladimir Putin will be forever marked as a pariah globally. He has lost all his political credibility around the world. Any world leader who stands by him will be shamed as well. And that comes to us from David Crane, who again is a former international prosecutor. So the implications that this arrest warrant is going to have, they're just huge. And so as we continue to monitor this sort of conflict happening overseas, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how the fallout affects both, countries internationally, but also us here at home, and what this could mean for the relationship with Vladimir Putin, along with other major world leaders here. All right, for this next story, I want to bring you to Clayton County, another big story we've been following for quite some time lately. And this is just the latest development as ex-Clayton County Sheriff Victor Hill files an appeal following his prison sentence. So attorneys representing former Clayton County Sheriff Victor Hill filed an appeal of his October conviction for violating civil rights of inmates. Previously, a judge sentenced Hill to 18 months in federal prison, followed by 6 years of supervised release. This was for violating civil rights of 6 detainees at the Clayton County Jail by ordering them into strapped restraint chairs for hours. Now, as a condition of his release, a judge told Hill he can never work in law enforcement again. That includes working as a consultant. That judge also told Hill that his arrogance was his downfall, which was pretty interesting. She says that your love of power somehow overcame your love of the law. Now, after being convicted in October of violating these constitutional rights of detainees, Hill was sentenced on Tuesday in federal court, and federal prosecutors had previously recommended he serve a sentence of 46 months in jail for those civil rights violations. Now, another interesting peg to this story, you might already know if you are living in Clayton County, but voters in Clayton County are picking a new sheriff in a special election March 21st. This is on Tuesday. Early voting is already underway. This is going to be a pretty big deal. I believe we will have Atlanta News First reporter Yasmina Alston covering this special election on Tuesday. So that's something to certainly look forward to as we continue to monitor that fallout over what's happening over in Clayton County with both the former sheriff and new sheriff coming their way. I have another update here to a story, this one out of DeKalb County, and if you watched us yesterday, if you tuned in with us yesterday, you're going to remember this story because it's pretty hard to forget. Very disturbing. Whenever there's ever an animal involved in some sort of crime or brutality incident, it's almost impossible to forget about. And that's why I think, for me personally, this story has stuck around. But earlier this week, we learned that a dog had been recorded on camera being punched and slammed against a wall. We've now learned that that dog is dead. This happened at an apartment complex in East Atlanta in DeKalb County. And not only that, police have now identified the man they're looking for, the man they say is responsible. I want to show you his picture here. Authorities say this is Mekhi Jackson. They say that he's on the loose. Now, a woman saw this disturbing video. You see it right here on your screen. We're pausing it before it gets to that beating, just because it is so incredibly disturbing to see. But a woman saw that video online. She reported it. And that's how officers and authorities came to the conclusion of that man they were looking for. Again, his name is Mekhi Jackson. Now, here in Georgia, the penalty for a misdemeanor animal cruelty offense is up to a year in prison and a $1,000 fine, but aggravated animal cruelty is a felony. That means it can be up to 5 years in prison and a $15,000 fine. No word yet on what repercussions or charges this person would face. Police say if you see Jackson, you're asked to call police and do not engage with him. Again, Mekhi Jackson. I know that's a really tough story for you guys. So we're going to move on to something a little more light and a little more hopeful, I think. For any of you out there who use subscription services, I know that's many of us, whether it is for entertainment purposes, maybe you have a food subscription service, if you're one of those lucky people who get food delivered to your home every week. Gym memberships, another very big one, or maybe just service around your home. But we're talking about subscription services here for a pretty interesting reason. Well, many of us know that feeling of wanting to cancel a subscription service, maybe like a gym membership, but then not being able to cancel right away. They can make it a little tricky for you. Sometimes it feels like they just want to hang on to your money a little bit longer. You might have to call or show up in person or jump through a lot of hoops. Okay, well, here's why we're talking about this. There is a bill, House Bill 528, that would require companies offering online subscription signups or renewals to give you the option to cancel online. Well, that would make it a lot easier, wouldn't it? Some of these companies require you, again, to call or show up in person if you want to cancel. If the legislation passes, companies must also notify people when they charge their credit or debit card. That might be pretty helpful for some of us out there. If the bill passes, the law would go into effect next January. So we're talking about like 8.5 months before this could take effect seriously. But I think for a lot of people out there, it gives them a little bit of hope. We heard from the Attorney General office would be tasked with making sure companies follow the rules and abide by this law. I'm curious what you guys think out there. It's a pretty interesting concept, and I can speak from personal experience when you're trying to cancel these services and it just feels like you're having no luck, and then it feels like they're draining your bank account when you don't even want to use the subscription. I could talk for hours about this. I know many of you out there could as well. All right, let's move on to our final story of the night. Oh, bittersweet here. A little bit of heartbreak here. But, I mean, you can't be too upset. We're making history tonight. When I say we, I mean Kennesaw State University. I'm including myself in that. We're all fans of KSU right now. Unfortunately, KSU lost today to Xavier in March Madness NCAA Tournament. You're watching a couple of clips here from the game earlier today. It was really a good game. The final score, 72-67, with Xavier pulling off that win. Now, just to give you some perspective on how close this was, in just the last 10 seconds of this game, it was a 1-point game. Yeah, Xavier was only ahead by 1 point. And, you know, a real nail biter, I think, for a lot of us who were watching live and praying that KSU would pull out that win. Unfortunately, it did not happen. Either way, though, we are still so proud of our Owls out there. This is KSU's first ever NCAA game. They actually bused students to this game in Greensboro, North Carolina today. I don't know if you could see any of them in the stands up there. They wanted to make it feel as much as a home game as possible. just to amplify that energy. And honestly, I think they really did. And just to give you a little bit more perspective here, KSU was the 14 seed. Xavier, seed 3, okay? So honestly, KSU wasn't expected to win by a lot of folks out there. They put up one incredible fight. And don't forget, KSU is the only university from Georgia to play in the NCAA tournament this year. So even if you didn't go to KSU, or if you don't know the university super well, but you still live here in Georgia, I think that there's probably a pretty good chance here that you were rooting for them. Again, I know a lot of us were, and win or lose, we are still so proud of the team. A lot of them on their way here back to the Atlanta Metro now. And speaking of the Atlanta Metro, you know what time it is. I'm going to give you a beauty shot. This is a very different type of beauty shot today. You can see obviously all the lights per usual, but we're looking at some raindrops on our camera here. This looks like it would be a kaleidoscope filter, if you ask me. But this is real. This is not Instagram. This is real life. And we have meteorologist Patrick Pete with us now to give us the details on the forecast for this weekend. And I think a lot of you out there might want to know, when is the rain going to let up? Patrick, what's going on?
Well, yeah, it's already starting to clear up out there as far as the rain. It's lighter in nature, and that's going to be the case as we head through the next hour or so before this all starts to really dry out. And then, unfortunately, our story is going to become one of temperatures. Unfortunately, yet again, for I believe the 4th time this week, we're tracking a freeze warning for parts of our region. Now, this is not the entire area, but it's essentially everybody that's north and west of Atlanta. You have that freeze potential as we head into the early morning hours. Temperatures are just going to tumble. This cold front is sliding through, and as it pushes through, those numbers have been dropping, and that's going to continue and actually speed up a little bit as we head through the next few hours. So we're talking about waking up to some very chilly morning temperatures. You can see that a lot of locations are going to be just at or slightly below freezing, from LJ to Clayton and to Carrollton. We'll be a little bit milder here in Atlanta, where I think we'll start off the day in the mid to upper 30s. And thankfully, we're going to be rain-free as we head into the weekend. A good mix of sun and clouds to start off the day, and then the clouds, well, they become partly cloudy. So we'll see a few more clouds as we head into the afternoon, and they'll thicken up as we head into the evening hours. And because we're going to have those clouds moving in and out of the region, and we're talking about some pretty breezy winds, a lot of times we talk about the winds. We don't really talk about the speed. We're more so interested in the direction. This is one of those times where both of those are pertinent, because the direction is bringing in some colder, drier air, but also the breezy winds are going to act essentially to remove we've had this conversation, our layer of warmth that hovers near our body. We talk about those wind chills, which your body actually experiences. That's going to be a big part of our conversation as we head into tomorrow, because the winds are going to be so breezy. Temperatures in the upper 30s during the morning hours are going to feel like the upper 20s. And then as we head into the afternoon, it really is going to be a struggle to get those afternoon numbers into the low 50s. And if you were with us last night and with our weather team this morning, we've kind of been fine-tuning this forecast throughout the day. Meteorologist Fred Campagna and myself, we actually lowered that afternoon high tomorrow just because we see the cold air coming in place. We see that there's going to be partly to mostly cloudy skies, and we see that there's going to be that brisk northwest wind. So we think we're going to be in the lower 50s, and that's going to be a struggle for a lot of us. So 52 is that high, but look at those wind chills through the afternoon. I mean, they struggle to get into the mid 40s, so it is going to be for sure unseasonably cool by nearly 15 plus degrees across the region. So be prepared for it. Have those thicker coats, the pea coats, all that good stuff. You are going to need it as we head into parts of your weekend. And then as we head into late night Saturday, early morning Sunday, the potential for more freezes in the cards for us. And as you can see, most of our area is highlighted under that freeze watch. We're giving you a freeze watch for tomorrow, Saturday night into Sunday morning, because typically those watches are extended roughly 24 to 48 hours out. So you get a warning whenever it's going to happen within the next 12 to 24 hours, and then you get that watch for freeze whenever that's 24 to 48 hours. And that's exactly why that freeze watch is in place on Sunday. But temperatures are actually going to be colder to start off your Sunday morning than they're going to be in the morning. We're talking about a lot of our communities waking up to temperatures that are going to be in the 20s. We're going to struggle to get into the 30s through the first few hours of the day in places like Dalton and Rome. By lunchtime, struggling to get to the mid-30s, getting into the 40s for a few hours late day, roughly 3, 5, 6 o'clock. We'll get into the mid to upper 40s, and then those numbers start cooling back down. So this has kind of been a bit of a roller coaster week as far as those temperatures are concerned, and the ride is just beginning. So we're heading into the weekend where those numbers are going to get chilly, and then as we head into next week, we'll finally start to see those numbers rebounding. So by Monday, when you're heading back to work, temperatures are going to return back into the mid-50s for the first day of spring. And this is a primarily dry forecast, and it's going to be really geared around the temperatures and the fluctuations we're going to see. Warming into the lower 60s by Tuesday, mid-60s by Wednesday, and then I think we're all going to be loving life as we head towards the end of next week, where afternoon highs are going to be in the upper 70s, flirting with 80 degrees both Thursday and Friday. Now, of course, our team is giving you a 7-day forecast, but we're looking a little bit beyond it. Looks like we're going to have a system that's going to bring some rain Friday night into Saturday, so we'll be watching that and fine-tuning the timing, because when we're this far out, we can't give you an hour-by-hour breakdown of 7-8 days from now. We can just tell you what we see coming, and we'll fine-tune that over the course of the next week. What's going on, Michael? Hopefully you're having a happy Friday and a good evening. I want to leave you all with this 7-day forecast. It is looking a little gloomy out there. Still some water dripping on our cameras out there, but we are going to dry out as we head through the next couple of hours, and then the story is going to turn to just some unseasonably cold temperatures for this time of year, where we should be in the mid-60s, and we're going to struggle to get into the 50s tomorrow. So you all have a good night. We have lots of news coming on tonight after the Hawks game. Meteorologist Fred Campagna and myself are going to fine-tune and give you guys an hour-by-hour play of the weekend and try to find the best time for you to get out this weekend. It's going to be like an hour or two, but we're going to try to find that for you and give you that coming up tonight at 9, 10, and then, of course, we're going to come on tonight. It's probably going to be a little bit late, but we're going to come on after the game on ANF. So y'all have a good evening, and we will see you shortly.